Thought I'd change it up a little bit and talk about books.
Enchanté.
Hello, my name's Lena and we talk about books here, in case you'd forgotten, in the haze of relationship videos and Mamma Mia rants. This is a part 2 to a video I made during the beginning of the lockdown, all about the corona book babies. And by that I mean when people talk about coronavirus babies, like humans that have been born during this strange period in history, I want to talk about the book babies that have been born amidst this live history. I've been working in the UK publishing industry for like 8 years now, and at least here, I can't talk about other countries, but at least here, the success of a book is so heavily dependent on physical bookshops, physical events, physical signage, advertising in the streets. One of the things that's been hard to watch is to watch these authors who have spent absolutely fucking years, like, writing what is essentially more dissertations than I can even contemplate, and having that one window of time when their books would have been launched be this very strange period where all of the systems that usually would catapult their books upwards a bit limp, not ready for launch. So in the last video and in this video, I have been scouring the lists, talking to publicists I know, and really filtering a curated list of books that I think that you guys would like. Because if you've been watching me for a long time, we've known each other, you know, more than 10 years now, really. And I think I might know the kind of books that you'd be interested in. So this is a very special curated list of books that I have bet my horses on. Clearly never bet on a horse. Bet my bottom bean on. You can watch part 1 here. When I made that, I didn't know how long this would go on for, but apparently we're still here, so we're still here doing this. And I will continue to make these videos for as long as live events and other things for authors aren't happening. I also, towards the beginning of lockdown, wrote, plan and hosted like a free webinar for authors so they could learn how to launch their books during a pandemic. I've been doing work with publishing houses to host live events with authors, which has been fun. And I just think that if you are a book lover like me, now more than ever, it's important to order from your local independents. I'm going to leave links to all the different ways you can do that below, and to really order the books, because at the end of the day, it's the first few weeks and those pre-orders that really make a difference to whether the book does well. As I said, I can make a whole other video about why that counts and why it matters, but essentially, if you want to support an author, try and buy as close to publication date as possible and from an independent bookshop. Also, the British weather is like my hormone levels right now, meaning in and out, peaks and troughs. So if lighting consistency is something you look for in your book hauls, look, I'm working with what I've got. Beggars can't be choosers. These are in no particular order because the world is not in order anymore. Chaos outside, chaos inside. But I also don't want to give you sections to skip to, because I want this to feel like a random bookshop ramble where you pick stuff off the shelves and you discover something you didn't know you were looking for. I'm leaving links to all the books in the description. I have starred the ones that I have been gifted and not starred the ones I have bought or gathered myself. Anyway, goggles on, let's dive in. Wow, No Thank You by Samantha Irby. I've never resonated with a title so much in my whole life. I've seen Samantha Irby's books around online, but I've never actually seen one physically in a bookshop. So when Faber were like, we think you would like this book, I was like, yes, I will. I listened to Samantha Irby in a podcast interview and just like fell in love with how hilarious she was. You might see from some other books too that I'm looking for a new favourite essay writer. I feel a little at sea about that. I'm pretty sure a few of you are already fans of Samantha Irby, and there certainly have been days when my brain can't process anything more than a little essay. So I'm really excited about these. The blurb on the back of this one is from Roxane Gay, and I'll read basically anything Roxane Gay tells me to, because I'm an obedient person like that. Also, I just read, not a new book, but I just read 80 by Roxane Gay, which is a short story collection that she's written that I'd never heard of before. And I listened to an audiobook and she reads it, and it's one of the best, oh my God. It's one of the best short story collections I've ever read. Side note, but if you're looking for short stories, it blew me away. Next is Pondweed by Lisa Blower. I was speaking on a panel at a writers' conference in Birmingham when I met Lisa. We were on a panel together and she was so fucking intelligent and incredible that I was like, I need to know this woman. And we've been in contact. She sent me her book. It's blurbed by Emma Jane Unsworth, who obviously Animals blessed me last year. It just wiped my forehead with salty truth. The reason I'm excited about this is it sounds like a really non-stereotypical road trip book, because every road trip book I've ever read has been about the USA. I'm trying to make my reading less USA centric because I kind of think it's insane that the USA takes up like 5% of the population, and yet I know more about their culture than I do about my own. This road trip is from Stoke-on-Trent to Wales, which is much more on brand for me. I think the cover is absolutely stunning and I'm really excited to read this one. Lisa talks really eloquently about being a working class writer as well, so do follow her. She's like really incredible. I've talked about this in another video, so I won't go on about it too much, but this is The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. I found a cheeky signed edition online. The concept sounds really interesting and I'm really excited to read that, and especially because I very rarely seem to be reading books at the same time as anyone else, and I feel like I really missed out on, I mean, all kind of conversations at this point, but especially conversations like about current books that are actually everybody else is reading. So this is my like one concession to that. So, and I know quite a few of my friends have read this, so I'm really excited to like read this soon so that I can chat to people about it. Finally, some news. I'll have something to talk about on the phone. God damn it. Nothing happens to me anymore. Okay, next I have noticed that a lot of my nature writing, which is like one of my favourite kind of categories of non-fiction, I think, is just so white. And actually you go into the bookshops and they're actually almost, it's the ones, I mean, it's not the one section, but it's really a section that is in need of a glow up. So when I saw that Wonderland, A Search for Magic in the Landscape by Ginny Reddy was coming out, I was like, yes, send it to me, please. I've already dipped into the beginning and I really like the style of writing. It's a memoir, and let me just read some of the blurb to you. Alone on a remote mountaintop one dark night, a woman hears a mysterious voice. Propelled by the memory, and after years of dreaming about it, Ginny Reddy dares to delve into the wonderlands of Britain, heading off in search of the magic of the landscape. A London journalist with multicultural roots, she determinedly sets off on this unorthodox path. Serendipity and her inner compass guide her around the country in pursuit of the other and a connection to Britain's captivating natural world. Sign me up. Then for some poetry, I actually have already read this one. This is Erin Boland's Alternate Endings. It's by a very cool independent poetry publisher called Burning Eye Books. It's actually blurbed by me! This is my first physical, official blurbing, and it's very exciting. I'll tell you what I think of it. Utterly brilliant. Poetry that fizzes in your tummy and stirs your heart. I loved every page. I actually know Erin now as a friend, but we met because I love her poetry. Me and Craig went to this really random poetry night on South Bank, and I saw her perform this poem about being from the north but living in London, and I'm going to link it below, and I swear to God, if you click on it, you're going to be sold. I'm sorry, that's just how, I don't make the rules. If you liked my poetry collection, Doom, Ron and Glitter, then you will probably really like this too. And if you do want to buy it, I would suggest buying it directly from the publishers because they have their own website, and supporting independent business right now is the one. Especially like non-London centric publishing, that they're based in Bristol. I'm really enjoying getting to know this kind of like mesh genre of poetry and novel where like books are written in novel form. I read The Poet X by Elizabeth A. Svido, and that was really great, and I'm really excited to read this one. This is Punching the Air by Ibi Zobei and Yousef Salaam. Yousef Salaam is one of the Exonerated Five, or formerly known as the Central Park Five, and Ibi is an established author who's already written Pride and American Street, and they've collaborated on this book together, which again is a space that I'm really interested in. It's also really interesting because it's not a memoir, it is fiction, but the main character is a teenage boy who was also convicted of a crime he didn't commit. I haven't really heard that much talk about this one yet. It's coming out in September, so I'm going to read it. If I love it, I'm going to shout about it because it sounds just so good. Next, we've got a book that just came out, Eat, Gay, Love by Callum Swiggan. I know Callum personally, and I know how hard he's worked on this book. I haven't read this yet, but I'm really excited to, and it actually kind of feels like something I need right now. I really like the premise of this one because it sounds like it's been really thought through, and it really does sound like Callum's had a bit of a ride of a life so far. So in the spring of 2012, Callum finds himself alone and heartbroken after a relationship for 6 years comes to an end. Unsure of what to do next, he leaves the hometown he has known his whole life to take up a job teaching English in Italy. What he doesn't know is that he'll be starting a journey that will take him across the globe, from a beautiful family home on the outskirts of Rome to an underground sex clubs in Berlin to the bustling streets of New Delhi and animal sanctuary deep in the jungles of Thailand. And he talks about how he meets an Italian teenager struggling with a homophobic father, a trans woman navigating life in Thailand, a young HIV positive man living on the streets of London, among many others. Their stories will show Callum not just the different challenges faced by LGBT plus people everywhere, but also in the face of incredible hardship and sorrow, the profound strength and joy that they all share. This one was sent to me by Scribe, another independent publisher. They told me about this one and I was like, yes, please, that sounds absolutely up my alley. This essay collection is concerned with bodies. She's an Australian writer that I've only heard good things about, and I really love the cover on this. I don't know what it is, but I just think it's really clever and simple, but like punchy. I don't know, it's good. It's doing good things to me. This one I think I've mentioned briefly in another video, but this is This Lovely City by Louise Hare. I ordered this and immediately read it. It's a kind of mystery / romance book about a man who arrives in London on Windrush, falls in love, and finds himself wrapped up in a crime investigation where he's innocent again. But as new stuff comes up about the crime investigation, I'm trying not to give any spoilers away, as new stuff comes up, you realise that the plot is like very thick. It's very atmospheric, it's very pacey. I loved the kind of descriptions of like 1950s dance halls, and it brings the layers of nuance of that part of British history to life in this really imaginative way. And I also just like got so attached to so many characters in this, even though it's quite short. I miss them now. I really miss them. I've been going to visit my friend Jen quite frequently and stand in her garden and talk to her through her window during the lockdown. She's shielding, so she lowered this book down to me in a plastic bag from her window. It's a fiction story inspired by the two twins that were the sons of Shakespeare, and that one of them, Hamlet, dies, which is supposedly why Shakespeare called his tragedy Hamlet. So my impression is this is a reimagining of that, and historical fiction isn't something that I always reach for, but apparently it's really working for me right now, so I think that maybe I'll carry on the historical fiction train for a while. Chew, fucking chew. Let's go. For translated fiction, you might remember last year or the year before me ranting about Hotel Silence, which is a translated fiction book I read. It's translated from Icelandic. We don't read enough Icelandic fiction ever. It's such an interesting culture, and I think, why do we have so many French and German translations on our shelves, but we don't have that many of any other language? I don't really get it. But anyway, one of the ways to rectify it, Miss Iceland is this author's new book. So I obviously already trust this writer loads, but let me just read the blurb to you. Born in a remote part of Iceland and named after a volcano, Hekla always knew she wanted to be a writer. She heads to Reykjavik with a Remington typewriter and a manuscript hidden in her suitcase, hoping to make it in the nation of poets. But this is the 1960s, and Helka soon discovers that there's more demand for a beauty queen than a woman writer in this conservative, male-dominated world. Along with her friend, Jean, a gay man who dreams of working in the theatre, she soon learns that she must conceal her true self to have any hopes of success. If Hotel Silence is anything to go by, I'm going to bloody love that. I love Juno Dawson's non-fiction, but I've never read any of her fiction, I don't think. So this is Wonderland, Welcome to the Party by Juno Dawson. If you are interested in reading more stuff about trans identities but don't know where to start and feel a bit intimidated by some of the more academic material out there, The Gender Games is so good, and she reads the audiobook, and it's just, I'm actually re-listening to it at the moment because I feel like I need a refresher. But this just sounds like so fun. From what I can gather, it's a glamorous, dark retelling of Alice in Wonderland. It's about a girl called Alice, and when her troubled friend Bunny goes missing at an elite party, from what I can gather, hijinks ensue. So I'm definitely going to keep this one for like a fun weekend when I'm just like, I just need some dark humour YA. For non-fiction, The Future We Choose, this is a proof, but the book is out now. Here's the actual cover. It's about climate change, and it's actually written by two people, which I'm in support of. Again, I'm just really interested in collaboration books. Christina Figueres and Rebecca Karnak are both really great voices on a podcast that I found really helpful, Outrage and Optimism. Christina Figueres in particular, after I listened to that podcast, I'm literally just like, I think you're my hero. She was the woman behind the Paris Agreement in 2015, and they both speak really interestingly on the key issues of climate. He is a British political strategist and she is a Costa Rican diplomat.
Can I make it any more obvious?
I'm not saying those jobs don't come with charisma, but they also have this dual talent of being so charismatic, so light-hearted, and so good at like distilling stuff into simple terms without diluting them or losing the nuance, which the format of this book kind of demonstrates. It's obviously talking about like how there's only one planet, but it's split into parts, two worlds, 3 mindsets, and then 10 actions. I actually need to read that ASAP. I don't know why I haven't yet. This just came out. It's by Shola von Reyhold. It's called Loat. It's published by Jacaranda Books, who are a Black-owned and independent publisher in the UK. I've actually got 3 from them here because I kind of just like went on their website and ordered directly from them. Again, you can do that. I would recommend. This is about a woman called Mathilda who is obsessed with the 20s, and she discovers a photograph of the forgotten Black modernist poet Hermina Duet, who ran in the same circles as the bright young things she adores. So it's set in modern times, but it's about her going on the trail of this forgotten modernist poet, and it sounds decadent, mysterious, atmospheric. Again, take me to the past. That's where I belong right now. I've talked about Triangulum before in another video, but I'm trying to think back, but I think what really swayed me on this one when I was deciding what to buy was this description. Presented as a message from the future, Triangulum boldly mixes science fiction with philosophy and details of South African history seldom examined. An affectionate exploration of bereavement, sexuality and coming of age, this is a multi-layered novel showcasing a completely original talent coming to his full powers. So I'm really scared of science fiction. It's one of the areas that I'm like, oh God. So the fact that this is kind of like a mix of things gives me confidence, and I'd love to try it out. It sounds so unusual, and I love the collage cover as well. The other one I got from Jacaranda Books was Under Solomon Skies. I've been looking for more fiction about environmental stuff, and this seems to deal with that. It's about 2 friends from the Solomon Islands who get stranded in the sea, and it covers stuff around environmental debt, overfishing and the rising sea levels, and they're kind of like, it sounds like it's a fiction set on the backdrop of that. Sounds incredible. I think a title sometimes just sells me on a thing. This is Terence Haynes' American Sonnets for My Past and Future Assassin. What a title. I've watched some of their poetry on YouTube and thought it was incredible. These are actually written as sonnets, and I very rarely read sonnets. Sonnets are so hard to write, and I'm really interested in like watching people play with them from afar, because I'm like, I won't touch that with a barge pole, far too complicated for my poetic toolkit. So I love like watching other people do it, because it's kind of like watching somebody tightrope. I'm sure this was completely planned before the pandemic, but this essay collection by Olivia Lang is called Funny Weather, Art in an Emergency, and I think this might be cover of the year. Look at the texture on it, absolutely gorgeous. And with the flash of like bright blue inside. What? I have dipped into this one briefly, and it's very academic, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to love it. I'm just a bit like, I think I need to clear my head a little bit before dipping in. I'm not particularly familiar with Olivia Lang's writing, although I know she is beloved by many, but I thought if she's writing about this topic, that's exactly the kind of topic that I like to talk about, so I thought it was a good way in. So these are 2 poetry collections coming out on the same day by the same poet, which I'm okay with. They'll both be out by the time I release this video, although probably not. They'll probably still be very new. They come out on the 30th of July. They're both by Eve L. Ewig, but again, I've watched some of her poetry online and thought it was great. So, and then also I just really like poetry that's in this like kind of more square format. I really like the design of this book. Does that make any sense? And then finally, I just wanted to tell people this exists. It's not new, but it brings me so much delight. It's the Blobby zine. I just got it. It's obviously made by like a group of independent creators, and I will leave the link to it below. You know how I love a good zine. I actually just feel scarred by the pictures on any page of it, but also like deeply delighted, and it's Mr. Blobby as... Oh... I have such base humour, but if anybody else likes really like tongue-in-cheek, childhood corrupting humour, then this might be for you. I love humans. You know when you look at something that somebody's made and you just think, I fucking love humans. They're so bloody weird. Anyway.
Enchanté.
Thank you so much for coming on this virtual shopping trip with me. I hope it felt like browsing the shelves of your favourite bookshop. I hope you found some stuff that you might want to read over the summer period. That sounds like we're all going to have one long summer period. That would be shit. These videos are available for free for you to watch because of the kind tipping of the Gumption Club. I busk for them every week and they tip me for these videos, so thank you so much to them. Also have a newsletter, and when you sign up you get a free reading list of all my favourite books ever, like the list. If you could have one book out of this list, which one would it be? Tell me in the comments below. There's some more bookish videos here if you fancy, and until next time, Frog Snog out.